Hello. Have we all enjoyed it? Last year, I was amazed to hear from so many founders of companies. It's a rare privilege to get real space time with these people. And last year, there were, 7, 8 entrepreneurs that spoke? And today's been exactly the same. So stand up. Thank you. Ben, you've done a great job. Thank you. It's a great show again. Now, I'm not standing up here wearing a comedy old person's mask. I do really look like this, I'm afraid. I've been in IT now for 37 years. Is anybody here 58 or older? I made it. Oh, you just can't see me, look. That's a shame. That was me when I was the youngest person in the room. That was proof I had hair, but I'm hiding it there. That was me when I was the youngest person in the room, aged 21. Now, for those of you that are smiling, I'll just say to you, first of all, time will do this to you too. And secondly, I don't mind, because we all look like that then. That was fine. But when I look back into my history, and I'm afraid my creds are a bit longer than everybody else's, of course, because I've been around a while, I started as an assembler programmer. How many of you know what assembler is? You do? Good. I mean, the great thing about knowing how to count in hex, which is, you go 1632. My age in hex is 3A. It's a lot less than 58, isn't it? And I very quickly got into writing applications, because to sell a computer, you had to write the application in those days. So I wrote triple entry bookkeeping systems that worked. I graduated into account management and selling and marketing. Ended up as VP Europe for a company called Insignia Solutions. We went public on NASDAQ in New York in 96. We were bought out by Citrix in 97. And I got together with a couple of mates and we created a little company called Vicestorm. We took it as a shell company from virtual startup through to 34 million and 340 people in 6 years. We raised 25 million venture capital along the way. I wasted most of it. You now may know that company as HP Information Assurance, because it was sold in 2008 eventually. Along the way, we created this little company called AppSense. You may know of AppSense. Currently turning over £60 million. Goldman Sachs recently put 70 million into them. And since that time of 2000, I left in the second round of funding with Vicestorm. And since then, I've been an investor, a mentor, non-exec, and a helper of people growing and developing small businesses. Just to give you some idea of the sort of companies I work with, let's think of the really interesting ones. Software sector. In the Deloitte Tech 50, these are the fastest growing software company in the UK at the moment. Be amazed if that's not 25 million next year. So it's very exciting working with companies growing that quickly in software. There's a startup software company, been going for a while but keeps reinventing itself. That's water purification, very much a startup. I was a founder shareholder at Oakman Inns. We just won two awards at the industry Oscars, which is the Publican Awards, won 2 awards on Tuesday night for that, which was great. So it's really interesting to see lots and lots of different companies and see the difference in all the owners. So when I'm asked to present, when Ben said, could you talk about preparing your business for exit? The first thing I thought was, well, everybody actually knows what you need to do to prepare a business for exit. It's pretty simple, really. You need some proof points. You need some customers that have proven what you do is valuable in the world. You need a scalable business model that actually there's plenty of them and they're accessible to you in increasing volume. And you need a bunch of people who can do it for you. Questions? But then you come to a show like this and you realise how various each implementation of that is. You get guys in hoodies bouncing up and down off the stairs saying, yeah, everybody's family. And then you get other organisations that have done it and say, yeah, I get to 300 people and I sell, and then I get to this. The style is as different as you are all individual. So the more I looked at it, it became more and more difficult to say, well, how do you prepare your business for exit? So I've turned it on its head. I'm going to talk to you about the 7 things that I hear people saying all the time that aren't right, that actually don't work. You have to find a different answer than these things. I'll just quickly run them through for you. I won't be happy till I've made lots of money. Second one, I'll sell when I'm ready, and I'll know when I'm ready. It's all sounding a bit Jeremy Clarkson already, isn't it? I'll know what my business is worth, and I'll not sell for less. Those big spreadsheets showing these great long sales forecasts and imagineering into the future, forget it, they're pointless. Just give me 5 minutes with them. Let me stand up with my grand vision for the company for 5 minutes. They'll get it, you'll see. And actually, when we do need money, it's all just money. All investments are the same, don't worry about it. And when it comes to doing anything about exiting, what do I do all day? How hard can it be? Leave it with me. So let me take them in turn. I won't be happy till I've made lots and lots of money. Now, I'm talking to all of you who are running your own businesses here, and especially to those of you that get offered 100 million or 200 million or 300 million. Huge amounts of cash. Yes, it's so tempting when you get offered big money to sell a business. And if we've all done it, as customers, there's invoices, there's cash collection, there's legals, there's recruitment, there's health and safety, there's all that stuff. It's all trouble, it's all bullshit, but it's your bullshit. You're living with your own words and your own goals. You're not living somebody else's dream. You're living your own dream. And I've seen far, far too many imaginative, interesting, funny people become birds that can't sing. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about what's happened with me. But I went through, I think, a period, I didn't go under medication for it, but alongside the two founders of Vicedom, I know two of us, I think we were in clinical depression for at least a year after we took the first round of funding. Because suddenly, they put people on the board and they just took the wind out of our sails. We lost our own joy. And what you hear a lot of, another thing that you hear said that's wrong is businesses are just, they're not children. Businesses are businesses, they're there to be bought or sold. Well, not actually. In the long run, because of the cumulative effect of all the decisions that you make day by day, hour by hour, week by week, companies reflect your personality. And it shows this, even when people leave companies years and years afterwards, the company still reflects their personality. If you're jolly, happy, that's what the company will be. If you're a bit dull, well, it'll be a worthy company. Now, good old, dear old clunky Microsoft compared to cool Apple. Now look, I can't make an air guitar look cool, but Jobs can. Gates can't make a guitar can't make it look cool when he's got a real guitar. It's true. It's your joy. Whoa, hang on. Whoa, that's gone way before, hasn't it? That's bizarre, that. You've seen all my presentation there. There we are. So, the key thing to remember is not when you get offered all this money, what do you want to get offered? How much is it? It's how much is enough. Because if you've built a really strong business that's working well and it's in your own image and you're being happy, what are you going to do tomorrow? What when you sell? What are you going to do with all that time? The real question you need to ask yourself is how much is enough? I'll come back to that. Second one, I'll sell when I'm ready and I'll know when I'm ready. Live example, this happened, no, I won't talk about that now. I'll talk about this. As you grow a business, you start it and it changes over time. This is a curve created by a fellow called Greiner from Harvard Business School. And he mapped the size of a business against its maturity. And we've seen this. As you start growing a business, it's all about creativity when you start. Okay? So you start, you're creative, and you have a crisis of leadership. Can you actually lead a business at all? Then when you've cracked that, you end up with growth through direction. But then you get the problem, you can't do everything. So you get a crisis of autonomy then. And if you manage to crack that by growing through delegation, you then get a crisis of control because you can't manage everybody. You start doing all the stuff in their own way. Once you grow then through coordination and work there, you get a crisis of bureaucracy and red tape. And the moment you've cracked that, you can then grow through collaboration, and you then start coming a crisis of internal growth. And so you end up with working with external partnerships. I want to ask you a question. At what stage does the joy go out of it for you? This is a good slide. Look, I've had 2 people take photographs of this. Very flattering. So at what stage does the joy go out of running the business for you? It's a really critical question to ask yourself. Because there will come a point where you're no longer doing things that you started with that actually give you pleasure. And in fact, it was really interesting talking about being, Sarah talked, where's Sarah still here? She's dashed off. She talked about being the key holder in a company. And everybody thinks of managing director as being the glamorous job in the business. That's the one job everybody... Actually, it's not. Because what happens is that you find various parts of the job. You may start off doing some recruiting, and that's fun, that's great. But you need to get somebody else to do some of that. You package these things up like recruiting, HR, marketing, bit of finance, get the sales bit sorted out. You end up as MD doing all the boring bits in the gaps. Your job is to make sure everybody else's do lists all fit together and being the key holder. It's not glamorous at all, which is why a lot of tech companies, you end up hiring this COO person. Then you get the problem of being the COO's boss, because you're a shareholder, and you've got to work for them because you're good at this, but they call the shots for you. It gets very confusing. That's hard. I promise you that. That is extremely difficult. So, next thing then, when does the joy go out of it for you, is how big a company gets. I think it was Nick talked about 400s about the scale. Anyone that started a company know it's just you and the rest of the world, maybe 2 or 3 of you and the rest of the world. That's easy. Then you get to the hunting pack of about 10 to 15 or 20. It's no accident, by the way, that sports teams are between usually about 8 and 15 people. It's because 8 and 15 people have eye gaze detectors. They know where everybody else is looking. You communicate by osmosis at this time. Then suddenly, and it happened with Vicestorm, you look out the window and there's 300 of them. And you don't know everybody's name. Somewhere along the road, the joy will go out of it for you. And it's really important to recognise that growth of its own accord is something you need to be very wary of. Because it may not make you happy. It may not bring you joy. So the next one you start thinking, well, hang on a minute, I'm not getting any more pleasure out of it. I'll sell it, I'll move it on, and I'll start up again. So I know what my business is worth, and I'll not sell for less. Okay, live example. Happened before Christmas. Bloke I've known for a while. Peter said, I want to sell my business. It's a software business. He's in his late 60s. It's time he retired. He said, if you get me $1 million for it, I'll walk away. Now, I promise you, whatever you think your business is worth, if you get offered it, you'll go home and go to bed and go, yes! Next morning, you'll wake up and say what Peter did, which is, I think I can get a bit more. It's true. We all do it. And Peter came back a couple of days later. I got a term sheet for him for 1.3 million. It took me about 3 or 4 months to find a buyer and all the rest of it. Term sheet. They hadn't done an exhaustive look, but they weren't paying too much. They were okay, 1.3 million. Pete, we went out for dinner at one of our restaurants, it turned out, and he said, brilliant, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll do that. Next morning, he phoned me up and said, I think they've undervalued it slightly. I'm going to go for 1.6. And I said to him, please don't do this. I've told you, I mean, 1 million's probably a top end anyway, but I think we could get it. Anyway, long story short, they came back in, brought 3 people, did a proper day's due diligence and withdrew the bid altogether. Probably the most horrible story I know about this. Anybody know this bloke? This is my good mate, Charlie Sharland. You may have read about him in the papers and his 10 million divorce recently. He was on the front of the Evening Standard. He was the major shareholder in Vicestorm. In '99, when we were just turning over not very much. We got a 15-page term sheet from a company. Folks sat in front of us very seriously and said, they valued us at 24 times revenues. Yeah, exactly, yeah. 24 times revenues. This is 99, remember? Just multiply that up for your own business. We were making no profit. We were running out of money every 10 seconds. 24 times revenues. Fabulous. So we met the board between Christmas and New Year. We all went to Langham's for fish and chips afterwards, and we punched it. We didn't get home till about 3 in the morning. It was fabulous, fabulous. Came back after Christmas. Brand new year, Charlie said, they've undervalued the security business. No, please don't do this. And he said, no, I want to write to them and say this. So we did. Very quickly, the internet bubble burst. Their shares halved overnight. Bid evaporated. Now, we got that ferocious valuation because we did have, remember those 3 things we talked about? We had proof points. We were selling applications delivered remotely across the internet. Now it's called cloud. 15 years ago, nobody could even believe it was possible. I used to stand up on places like this and say, do you want to see PowerPoint, or would you like, do you want to see PowerPoint, or do you want to see a live desktop remotely over the web? And people would go, I'd like to see it remotely across the web, and I'd say, it already is. This PowerPoint is coming live remotely over the web. People would fall off their chairs. So we had proof points for new technology that nobody could match. We had 2,000 live customers, and is that an accessible model to be able to sign these up over the internet and scalable? Yes, thanks. And I think we knew what we were doing, so we had good people to do it. We got a fabulous valuation. In fact, beyond the normal dream valuation that companies get. Because if you go on for 10 to 20 times revenues, you'd better have a dream. You'd better have really good proof points. You'd better have really good scalable business model. And you need to have some pretty convincing people to deliver it to. In terms of the other sides of the valuation, if it's a tuck-in, where effectively what you do is going to be tucked into their distribution setup, or their stuff is going to be tucked into your distribution setup, you might make 2 to 5 times revenues. Otherwise, it's back to the boring old one. Sorry, it's 3 times last year's profits, plus the cash in the bank. Because if I'm putting money into you, I want my money back in 3 years. Thanks very much. The real moral of this is that you really aren't the best judge of what your business is worth. Not because you don't know, it's because your judgment, the moment somebody says 10 million to you, you'll go, oh, that's normal now. Ratchet comes up, 15 next week, 20 next week. Because actually you're judging the wrong thing. You should be trying to measure your joy you get from the role you have and the business you're running. Money's the wrong measure. This is a fabulous one. Big spreadsheets, don't show me the big spreadsheets showing long-term sales forecasts and market shares. They're irrelevant, they're just engineering. I can write anything in those. I'm going to dispute that one. One of my heroes is this fella, Kurt Lewin, a Polish psychologist, who said there's nothing so practical as a good theory. So I'm now going to show you, I've got no apologies for this, this is going to get complicated now, because good business models are just complicated. And nobody's actually shown us anything really complicated on a slide yet, have they? So here we go. This is a company, it's based in the south of England. It was an organisation that manage other people's money. They have about 11.3 million under management. And organically, that was growing at about £200,000 per month. So they're managing that money for their clients. And they get paid as a percentage of that, plus some trail fees on policies that they sell. Guy's knocking on a bit. A younger fellow was coming along and said, I'll put 200,000 quid into your business because I want to grow this with you. I want to become part of your business and grow it for you. And I'll put 200 grand in, but I want 51% of the equity for it. I'm not putting that much money in without gaining more cash, please. And the old boy I was talking to said, how do I defend this? What value is 200,000 quid in my business? So we tried to work out what were the levers that made effects happen in this business. What are the assumptions that he made about growth and development? So let me come down here a little bit so I can look at it with you. So we took a bit of a guess and said, rightio, if we put extra money into marketing, we should be able to get 50% more money coming into the business. We reckon that the market's going to grow about 5% per annum, and wastage from retiring clients, which is poor buggers that die, of course, that's going to be 5% as well. Revenues will be 3% of funds under management, and the split of recurring fees, incomes versus commissions is going to be 55%. This was the big one. The valuation calculation for the value of this company is industry standard. It's multiple of fee income plus commission income minus debt. And you take that as being 4 in a mid-market valuation, 3 in a low market, 6 in a high market. Now, it took us probably 2 months to reach this model, and it's a deep, broad set of spreadsheets that all feed into this front page. And every one of those things there is changeable. So you can change what those inputs are and see how the model ripples through. And in organic growth, given where we started, the business would be worth 1.34 million in 6 years, given what we thought was reasonable in terms of the levers and assumptions we'd made. So, big boy walks in, says, I'm going to put 200,000 quid into this business, and you can't live without me. And you can't see it there. That's a real shame with your slides. But it only shows, let's go back, it only shows a growth factor in the bottom corner there to 1.7 million. And so we were able to go back to the guy that wanted to join the company and invest in it and say, your £200,000, it'll only increase the value of the company by 400 grand in 6 years. You don't deserve 51% for that. So he did join, but on 15 points of equity. And we said, you increase it from 1.7 million to 2, and we'll give you another 20 points of equity. You increase it to 2.5, you can get to where you want to get to. A lot of people say that big spreadsheets are absolutely pointless. They are not. This imagineering the future out ahead of your business, trying to define what are the levers and assumptions that you make to say this is the way the world might go, is one of the most valuable things you can do to articulate the value and future of your business. So at 5, okay? Have you seen Simon Sinek? It's a TED Talk. Wonderful TED Talk. I strongly recommend it. The core of it is he talks about the difference between boring and inspiring companies. Boring companies. Anybody work for Dell? No, good. Boring companies say, we make computers. It's fantastic. You can buy one from us. You buy it, you give us the money, you can design the computer you want. You're a lucky man. You get exactly what you're looking for. It's fantastic. And why do we do it? Well, we do it because we make a load of money. Sexy companies, inspiring companies turn that on its head. Think of Apple. We're different. We think different. We change the status quo. How do we do that? What we do, we look at user interfaces and the way people interface with technology, and we change that relationship. So the technology is the most beautiful thing. They want it because it works beautifully in their world. By the way, we make a phone. Would you like to buy one? You don't need a monster vision. What you do need is a very clear idea of what is your purpose in the world and how are you going to get there. That marries beautifully with a spreadsheet that says, and here are the levers in terms of scalable business model and proof points. If you do have to raise some money, I'm only going to make one real point about this. All investment isn't the same. The money's the same, by the way. It's the people that come with it that are different. Do not just let the smooth suits talk you into it and say, yeah, they're there, and then put one of their junior MBAs on your board. I can remember when we were trying to do this ASP thing, which is now called cloud, having to explain to this guy how a PC worked. Just pointless. It was hopeless. So when they say we're going to put somebody on your board, we're going to get somebody in to mentor you, would you hire that person? What would you hire them for? Set them goals, set them targets, set them appraisals, have them fired if they don't do what you want. Here's one of my mentors. That grim-looking bugger there is Stan Grierson, my first ever boss. I can remember him taking me to one side. He was from Edinburgh. David, he said, every penny a prisoner. Wonderful phrase. Every penny a prisoner. But another of his great signs, and this is what you need to do with all the recruitment we've talked about today, his phrase covers it. You can smell emotional commitment a mile away. And if you don't smell it in the people that want to get involved with your business, forget it. Difference between involvement and commitment, everybody know it? Hen's involved, the pig's committed. Okay? And for the one thing about selling my business is what I do all day, people will boast about this is what I do. Having been through the process now several times, it's the most exciting thing you will ever do in your life. It's the most absorbing and wonderful exercise because it validates all that angst over the years as well as bringing some money in the bank account. But because it's so absorbing, you'll take your eye off the day-to-day ball of the job. It's much better to get some people in to deal with some of that stuff. And you go to the key meetings, you pull all the strings, but have an estate agent or two working for you. That's what it works for. So, when I look at these things about preparing your business for exit and having the clear proof points and the scalable business model, they'll all be different for each individual, but the one thing that doesn't change in every instance is that preparing the business for exit starts with you. And if you think of those myths, that's the thing you need to remember. I won't be happy till I've made lots of money. No. It's the wrong question to ask. What are your goals in life? What do you mean you don't know what your goals are in life? And how will this business help you achieve your goals in life? Why sell it if it's bringing in enough money, you're in charge of the whole game, put a COO in, and spend Mondays writing your book? Spend Tuesdays writing your book. Don't sell it because you've built something strong enough and you've covered all these other bases. By the time you think you're ready to sell, it's too late. You don't know what your business is, honestly. Business models aren't pointless. They're your best possible value creation strategy. But if you've got a really good one of those, why would you want to sell it? And if you think about the vision, the what and the how, yes, you might sell a product, you might sell a distribution network. Are you really going to sell you and your uniqueness? No, I don't think so. That's you, isn't it? And if you do need money, choose the people, not the money. And it's very difficult not to take your eye off the ball. And there are my 7 myths of preparing a business for exit. Thank you.